Welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Jaime Agostino. Today, we're exploring one of the most talked about topics in financial services, artificial intelligence. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the newest innovations designed specifically for the credit union industry, CUltivate AI. We will be discussing how the platform came to be, the challenges it is designed to address, and how credit unions are helping shape its development, and what the future of AI could look like for our industry. Joining me today is Phillip from CUltivate AI. Phillip, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jaime. Glad to be here.
All right, so to start, tell us a little about yourself and your role at CUltivate AI. What led you to become involved in this initiative?
Yeah, my name is Phillip Autrey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at CUltivate AI. Came to this position from a different kind of background. I've spent the last 25 years scaling online platforms for various nonprofit sectors, mostly in education. And most recently, I was working with colleges and universities on AI adoption and the challenges that they face and a little bit of the skepticism of embracing this new technology. So I'm very used to working in the technology field, working in the nonprofit space. And so when this opportunity came around, I thought this is a fascinating concept of an industry building an AI platform that they're going to own, because that really cultivates, for lack of a better word, trust. And that's what I saw in a lot of my other implementations was lacking. There was a lack of trust in who is selling us the products, who's implementing the products.
Okay.
So that's sort of what drove me to join CUltivate.
Okay. For credit union leaders who may be hearing about CUltivate for the first time, what exactly is CUltivate AI and what is its mission?
Sure. So I'm going to start with our mission. It's really to unite the credit union industry around a purpose-built AI platform that the movement itself governs, owns, and distributes. So that's a lot to think about in a very ambitious mission when you think of an industry as large as credit unions. What it is at its core, you can think of CUltivate as a staff-facing AI assistant. So at first glance, when you look at the platform, you might compare CUltivate to Copilot or ChatGPT, but it's a lot more than that. It doesn't just rely on a general large language model, right? It draws from curated, we have a 3-tiered knowledge library system. And what that means is we're drawing from credit union specific content that each credit union would upload into the system, as well as content that would be shared by other credit unions. So that's something that when we talk about uniting the industry, allowing credit unions to share their best practices. And then thirdly, and this is one of the ways we separate ourselves, is that we're drawing from our partners in the content areas across the industry. So one of our partners is Filing Research. So we're going to be ingesting all of their materials. And that's private information that a public LLM doesn't have access to. So when we start talking about who are the content experts within the credit union field, this is really a big differentiator for us.
Okay. So what challenges or opportunities within the credit union industry inspired the development of CUltivate AI? What problems are you trying to solve?
Yeah, I think this is one of the areas where the founders, and our founders, we have 3 founders to CUltivate. I mentioned Filing Research, Viso Financial, and then Virtus AI. And I think when the leaders of those organizations came together, you're looking at an industry that has 4,500 credit unions in it, and various sizes, various capabilities. And so one of the key issues is kind of this knowledge problem. How do I get all of my staff members to have the same knowledge across branches, across credit unions? There's a lot more competition between fintechs, between the large banks. How do credit unions not only survive, but thrive in this new era of trying to reach out to members who are more tech savvy, who have higher expectations as to how technology is being, deployed? And so I think CUltivate was really formed under that idea of let's really move this industry forward using some of the latest technology, but in a way that everyone can get behind and that the industry really will own and trust.
Okay. So explain to me, how does Cultivate AI work at a high level? Walk us through the platform and how credit unions would interact with it.
Sure. So the platform is at its core is staff facing, right? So you're going to have a staff member, whether that is a member service rep, whether it's a loan officer, the CEO, or a board member, runs the gamut, right? So we're really going to be able to work with a variety of staff members here. They're going to enter in a question or a prompt into our chat interface. And that can be as simple as, hey, like, what's our current loan rate? Or it could be, I'm preparing documents for my board member, and there's this really complicated new NCUA regulation. Summarize that for me. So there's a lot of different use cases that can be deployed using AI to help the employee do their job more efficiently, but then also allow them to sort of move on into the deeper level aspects of their job. At the end, the goal is to help drive member growth and to help the members, really have a great experience with their credit union.
Okay. So artificial intelligence, it can mean different things to different people. So what makes Cultivate AI unique and how is it specifically designed for the needs of credit unions?
Yeah. So this is really one of the areas that's a little on first sight, a little more difficult to explain until you really get into it. So I mentioned our library, right?
Mhm.
So artificial intelligence has a couple of different ways, and it's a very broad term right now. So a lot of in the financial industry, a lot of AI is called agentic, right? Or we're using agents to perform tasks uh, for the credit union, for the financial institution. And in some cases, those agents make decisions. Cultivate AI is not about making decisions, it's about providing the information to allow the staff member to make those decisions. So, one of our key aspects is we're actually going to integrate with those fintechs that have those because there's they have very specific cases. So, for example, in our early rounds, we're going to be integrating with two fintechs, Vertus AI and Default Sleuth, and they go out, an employee will enter a prompt and they may not even know that, hey, I need this propensity model from Vertus AI, and so they're just asking Cultivate a question, and our AI realizes, hey, that's best answered by Vertus, and so we'll send a message to Vertus and bring that back. So in some cases, Cultivate orchestrates all the information that's out there. It knows when to go and cite a filing research document or when to go to the NCUA website, right? The NCUA, has a trove of information. But if you're new into the compliance world and you're trying to figure out how do I go and navigate all that information, it's one of the most powerful ways that AI can be used because it is sifting through that information, far more powerful than a search engine, and bringing back the exact area that employee needs and then cites it. And the citations are really important because that allows the staff member to feel that they have a trusted response and not just kind of hope that, oh, okay, like I think this sounds right, so I guess I'll go with it. So we want to make sure that when we talk about trust that we're citing all of our responses there. And then, one other example just to go into 5,300 call report data, right? It's so useful. And when I talk to credit unions, especially some of the smaller or mid-sized ones, they don't have the bandwidth to go and analyze and develop spreadsheets and export data. So again, we can take that information and with a simple prompt say, hey, how are credit unions like me growing over the last 2 quarters? What's their, debt ratio over the last year? And then we can provide that information. And that's really kind of the power of AI is providing information, curating it in a much quicker way. But then again, the differentiator for Cultivate is really citing it so that those answers are trusted.
Okay. So can you also share some examples of how credit unions might leverage Cultivate AI to improve like member service or operational efficiency, decision making, as well as growth?
Yeah. So lots of different ways to unpack, right, how the use cases are looking at. So let's take compliance and operations, for example.
Okay.
So as I mentioned with NCUA, it's a really large website to be able to get information. Compliance regulations are changing all the time. So Cultivate can serve as that living reference for NCUA guidance, right? It can FFIEC, right? I've learned a ton of acronyms, right? GLBA guidance. Instead of searching through all the regulatory documents, right, staff can ask natural language questions in my own words. What am I looking for? And get source accurate answers. So that reduces some of that compliance risk and saves enormous amounts of time, right, as we go through there. Even CEOs and senior leadership teams, peer benchmarking. All right. So that ability, as I mentioned, right, looking at a quarterly report and saying, oh, I need to hire an outside consultant, or I need to ask a staff member who already has another job to, hey, can you sift through this information, pull that together for me, right? So, as an example, how does our operating expense ratio compare to credit unions or our asset range in the mid-Atlantic, right? You can be really specific or really broad, and you get that substantive data-grounded answer. So I think that's going to be another piece that really helps drive adoption of this, is that there's use cases, for everyone. And really, at the end of the day, they're choosing when and how to use it. And I do want to emphasize that point, because a lot of times in my work with technology adoption, if it feels like it's top down and you must use this tool and you're going to say these answers are, the only answers I ever give, it becomes difficult for the employee who has spent years becoming an expert in their field, right, to feel like they're just handing over their job to technology. So this is really a different kind of implementation where the employees are going to see, how do I use AI to help me be more effective at my job and really amplify my contributions, instead of worrying about is it going to take away my job? That's not the goal of Cultivate at all.
Okay. So where are you currently in the development and rollout process? What milestones have you achieved so far, and what are you working towards next?
Yeah, so Cultivate's still pretty young. We announced at the GAC conference in March. So in 3 short months, we've done quite a lot of work. We're in active beta development, so we're executing across multiple work streams, which quite honestly is the reality of building a platform like this. So our goal is by the end of June, beginning of July, to have our early adopters roll out the program so that they can begin testing, looking at the use cases that we've already built for, and then provide feedback. So really important there, because we talk about this is for credit unions being owned by credit unions. Our roadmap is not a group of company employees sitting in a room deciding how they're going to get credit unions to use this. It really is going to be feedback based off of both explicit feedback from the folks using it, but then also the usage data that we get on the back end, right? What roles are utilizing Cultivate more? What kinds of prompts are they asking? So that's part of where we're at. We're also, all of our core architecture, we have developed a PII detector, which is our first layer of trust, so that if an employee accidentally enters in identifiable information, social security number, birth date, our system doesn't process that. So that was one of our first things that we said out of the gate, non-negotiable. We want to make sure credit unions trust the application as we go there. So, and then, along with that, we're really focusing on a wide range of credit unions for our early adopter program. So initially, and one of the things I found, and, partnering with Vizzo is so great about this, because you serve so many members from, pretty small credit unions to fairly large ones. And so the idea that this can be deployed to a credit union that has $100 million, $50 million in assets, and can also be deployed by a credit union with $5 billion in assets. And they're going to get to choose which of their staff starts to use this first.
How have credit unions been involved in shaping the platform? Have you received feedback from any early participants that influenced, the Cultivate AI's development?
Yeah, so I think, again, having our partners, one of the things we relied on in the beginning is between Vizzo, Filene, and Vertus AI, that is a really large number of the credit union space. So our partners have done a fantastic job of really going out into the credit union space and asking their members, what are you looking for? What do we need to provide to help you move forward here? So that information has been very useful. We presented at the Edge conference in Dallas, I guess about a month ago, and just walking around and talking to folks about, what do they need? What are they looking for? Some of the ideas we got from there, for example, we're building a calendar widget so that folks can, it sounds like a very simple, what conferences are out there, what webinars are out there. And it's a monumental task to go out and search all the different league websites and all the different conferences that are going to be hosted over the course of the year. So we're trying to build into the application a way that brings all that information into one place, right? Again, uniting the movement and really getting that feedback from folks on the ground of saying, this is something that's going to be useful to me. We know that that's what's going to drive adoption. So that's really where we're headed.
Okay, so for a credit union that's interested in learning more or wants to get involved, what opportunities are available today and what does participation look like?
Yeah. So our early adopter program, as I mentioned, we're getting ready to launch at the end of the month. We have a couple of, we're trying to keep it minimal in terms of a requirement. So a couple of things about early adopter. We're going to run a 90-day program free to use for the credit unions. And again, one thing to mention, whenever you hear about technology, you think, well, how long does it take to implement? Right? So CUltivate AI does not integrate with your core systems. It's truly just a cloud-based, hey, here's your account username, upload whatever documents from your private credit union library you want the system to hold, and you can get started. So there's very little upload time. And when you're thinking about, oh, we have to go through all the different committees to see who's going to have availability to do the integration work, there's none of that. So with 90-day, trial, what we're looking for are folks who are willing to test the features that we're building early on. We're going to do 2 surveys, a 30-day and a 60-day online survey. We're going to do a 45-day check-in with the users at each credit union, so about a half an hour. And then at the end of the 90 days, we'll do a longer hour-long session, not only with the users, but hopefully bringing in someone from the executive team as well, if they're not a user, just so that they can hear what the experience is. And again, that's going to be all at no cost to the early adopters because we're really gathering that feedback. And then if they continue, we're going to provide them with a locked in, lower rate to get started than when we have our general release of the product.
Okay. So looking ahead, how do you see AI changing the credit union industry over the next 3 to 5 years? And what role do you hope CUltivate AI will play in that future?
Yeah. So, I think all of us, regardless of the industry we're in, but specifically credit unions, I think all of us have that if I only had time list sitting on our desk, right? Those projects that we wish we had time to get to, whether that's for our entire organization or just individually, professional growth wise. And a lot of times the items on that list are the really deep items that can move a credit union forward. But because everyone is focused on the day to day, I have this deadline to meet, then that's where our attention goes. And so the idea that I'm hoping in 3 to 5 years and even sooner is that CUltivate really helps people get to that if I only had time list, because they're being more efficient at their job. They're not spending all the time that they would searching through drives and documents and verifying that, is this the right answer? Because I got an email that said one thing, I have a document, this is another. I don't know if that's the most latest information. I don't, I have a source here, but I'm not sure about it. So CUltivate really trying to bring that together and allow staff to do their job more efficiently so that they have time to dedicate to those projects that really are at the core of their mission, which is serving members, right? How do we drive member growth? How do I provide our current members with even a better experience? And I think that's really where we need to keep the focus on AI. And that's one of the beauties, I think, about the credit union industry. Because it is not for profit, it has a different mission, right, and a different focus than if you were in, the general financial sectors and you were thinking about the big banks. And then also, when I came into this industry, what I was somewhat, I'll be honest, somewhat skeptical about was this whole idea of the movement and collaboration, right? And someone had said to me, "Oh, well, the difference is you're going to go to your first conference and we don't shake hands, we hug." And it was so true, right? It was a great introduction for me, and I'm a hugger, so I don't mind. But it was great to see that, and I think this is where AI can accelerate. And really, you have an industry that wants to collaborate, but sometimes it's difficult to. And I think AI and technology and CUltivate can be part of enhancing that collaboration from the largest credit unions all the way down to the smallest. And if this industry is going to grow, all parts of the credit union industry have to grow, not just the largest ones or not just, through consolidation. We can really, technology can be used to kind of rising tides, lifts all ships.
Okay. All right. Well, Phillip, thank you for joining us and sharing the story behind CUltivate AI. It's exciting to hear, how the platform is being developed with credit unions in mind and how collaboration across the industry is really helping to shape its future. So thank you.
Thank you, Jaime.
All right, today's episode is sponsored by Vizzo Financial's Investment and Lending Services. Money management is a critical piece of any credit union's operations, from investments and lending options to assisting with your balance sheet. So, Vizzo Financial offers a variety of products and services meant to enhance and provide a better understanding of your financial position. Learn more at www.vfccu.org. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. Be sure to join us for future episodes as we continue exploring the people, the ideas, and innovation helping to accelerate credit union success. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and make it a great day.